The apartment was adorable. Perfect, even. A cozy one-bedroom upstairs in an old Victorian house that was surrounded by trees. Stained glass windows framed the front door. Hardwood floors gleamed. It was even closer to my work. Parking wouldn't be a problem. Laundry was free. It had 2 balconies, and there was a freaking dishwasher. This was my new home. When I met with the previous tenant to pick up the keys, she was stressed, but it was moving day. As we stood by her car, I told her she was welcome to text me if she forgot anything. "I'm never coming back to this place again," she said as she jumped in her car and sped off. Moving day was stressful for me, but I was excited. As I unpacked my boxes, I thought about how lucky I was to snag this cute place. I couldn't imagine why the previous tenant would give it up. Oh well, her loss is my gain. There was a nice cool breeze that night as I cuddled in bed with my cat. As I started to doze, I wondered about what the tenant had said to me. Why wouldn't she come back? Did I miss something? Then I heard it. Loud pops and creaks from the kitchen. Oh no, loud neighbors. I listened some more. It wasn't a type of noise I had heard before. It sounded like the floors were popping, but it was higher in the air. The cabinets? Whatever it was definitely coming from my kitchen, and it wasn't the neighbors. It didn't really sound like the house was settling either. Besides, it had 100 years to settle. It's probably just the cooler night air. That had to be it. I felt relieved. Living in an old house probably just wasn't for the last tenant. They can be pretty noisy. I tried not to think much beyond the popping and the creaking, but every night the sound started, and only after I went to bed. It was hard not to feel a little uneasy. I didn't feel right getting up and walking into the kitchen once the lights were out. Then, a few weeks after moving in, I was watching the sunset on my balcony and unwinding with a glass of wine while browsing OkCupid. I had clearly underestimated the amount of alcohol internet dating required, and I walked into my kitchen to get some more wine. All the cabinet doors were open. That's odd. Am I this drunk? I shut them and left. Later, I came back into the kitchen. The cabinets were open again. Fuck. Maybe it's my cat. He's exploring the new place, but he knows he's not supposed to jump on the countertops. So now the kitchen cabinets were opening in the day. I'd shut them, calm as could be. One morning, the cabinet above the refrigerator was open. I can't reach it, so I left it open. Whatever. This isn't going to get to me, I thought. This isn't going to get to me. This is my house. I do consider myself to be pretty skeptical, and this experience was new for me. The only thing I really knew about the supposed supernatural is that you shouldn't let them mess with you. Be strong. Don't let them see you sweat. I pay the rent here. I'll set the boundaries. But despite my tough exterior, I enacted a strict rule. No mention of any potential ghosts in the house. I would simply pretend it wasn't getting to me. Like a bratty toddler or an annoying coworker, I wouldn't give it the attention it wanted. But then things started to get worse. One night, it was quiet in the kitchen. No popping, no creaking. I was reading in my bedroom when I felt a little tug on the sheets from the foot of the bed. I figured it was just the comforter settling, or maybe a breeze. Surely there was a logical explanation. I was just too tired to find it. But then there was pressure on the bed by my waist, like someone was sitting. It wasn't my cat. He wasn't on the bed. He wasn't even in the room. I pulled the covers over my head and shut my eyes tight, pretending to be asleep. In truth, I didn't want to see anything. I didn't want my fears confirmed. I'd always try to fall asleep as quickly as possible, careful not to look around and see anything in the shadows. It worked for a while, until a few months later. My cat and I were falling asleep. He was cuddled in my arms. The night was calm, no breeze. The kitchen was quiet. But there was a noise in my bedroom. Clink, clink, clink. It was coming from my dresser. I definitely heard it. It was my earrings. It sounded like somebody was going through them, sorting them. Clink, clink, clink. I snuck a glance at my cat. He was wide awake, his eyes huge. He wouldn't budge. We both heard it. I couldn't bear to look at my dresser. I couldn't bear to look anywhere. I know this will stop. I know this will stop. It's something. Clink, clink, clink. It really was my earrings. Was somebody there? Why were they moving them? What was going on? Have I gone crazy? It seemed like an hour passed. I remembered the advice I heard about ghosts. Just tell them to leave. It seemed so simple, but I was so scared I didn't want to open my mouth. Part of me felt ridiculous, and part of me was worried I'd make it worse. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. This is my room, I said. Get out. I don't have the patience for this. The noises stopped, just like that. The next day, I started getting serious. I called my mom for advice. She wouldn't believe any of this, and she maintained she was 100% skeptical. It was all in my head. Still, as I told her more, I could hear the nervousness building in her voice. I couldn't believe that the skeptic was getting concerned. Do you know what you're doing? She asked. What if you make it worse? Do you need me to send you some of Cousin Nikki's sage? She can get us her legit Lakota stuff from the reservation. Well, I said, the sage from Whole Foods is probably okay. I don't hear the popping anymore. I saged my apartment every Friday to purify and protect, top down, all around. I prayed to the 6 directions. And that's the amazing thing to me. After I started burning sage, after I told it to leave, that I couldn't take this crap, it stopped. No more pops in the kitchen, no more tugs on the sheets, no more clinks. And the cabinet above the refrigerator, the one that was so high I couldn't reach to close it. One morning, I walked into my kitchen, and it was shut. Everything seemed to have gone back to normal. There was only one little thing that was just a touch out of the ordinary. I wasn't dreaming. I love my dreams, and every night I open myself up to whatever they want to tell me. My first night in the new place, I decided to play it safe and hold off. I kept holding off. Whenever I slept someplace different, my dreams exploded. I'd dream all night. But the first night back in the new place, I'd sleep with no memory of anything. One evening, I was getting ready for bed, and I walked into my bedroom before I usually do. The lights were off, but I had the distinct impression that I had startled someone. It felt like someone was standing by my dresser and was caught off guard. I'm just freaking myself out, I thought. Later, when I fell asleep, I had this dream. It began in my kitchen. I walked in, and the light was extra bright and almost fluorescent. Every single cabinet was open. Oh, Christ, not this again. Come on. Something pulled me into my bedroom. The light was bright and almost still, and a shadow was cast over my dresser. It was about the size of a man, but it floated in midair. I got the impression the shadow was a he. He was about 60 years old. He wasn't really attached to the house, but he had been here for years before I was even born. All this from a shadow. And for some reason, I didn't feel afraid. I was more pissed off by this guy trying to mess with me. The shadow told me his name was Gustav. What's your last name? I asked. He wouldn't say. He did say that he wanted to mess with me. Gustav said he was bored. He wanted entertainment. Gustav wanted to scare me. I told him to go scare somebody else. I was sick of this shit, and I didn't want to mess with it. Leave. And then I woke up, surprised, but calm. I made sure not to look around too closely. I didn't want to feed my fears. No shadow, no clinking, no Gustav. I fell back asleep. A few weeks after the dream, my parents were in town. We did all the touristy things, including a visit to Cabrillo. When we were heading home, my dad asked if we could stop in the Rosecrans Cemetery. He wanted to see the ocean view. Sure, I said. Turn in anywhere you like. My dad picked a section of the cemetery and drove down to the ocean, winding through the hundreds of graves. He parked the car and I stayed in my seat. It was a beautiful day. The view was lovely. After a moment, I turned inland and glanced at the grave right in front of me, directly next to me. Gustav Schmidt, it read. He was born at the turn of the century. He died in his 60s. He was right there.
Tonight's co-producer, Kate Raiford.